dues to be a precinct committeeman, and you can't be kept out. You're elected. We have a beautiful system. Every state's different. Our system, I think, is the best. Okay. And this system was used 40 years ago in America. When I grew up, my dad was a precinct committeeman. My uncles were precinct committeemen. Everybody knew who their precinct committeeman was. And then television came along, being used in campaigns with the Nixon campaign, and radio ads. And people started to, the party started to de-emphasize this. The progressives made sure that it wasn't taught in the schools anymore, in civics. I had a civics class. I went to Badger Boys State. I know this stuff. I knew it with 7th grade. But most people don't get this education. And so we forgot about this. And the party loved it because then they could run their candidates and they could always get reelected into the leadership. And they never had any threat. If the status quo remains the same in the party, an incumbent coming back to his district has an over 95% chance of winning the primary. And we got to change that for the bad ones. Okay, so now this isn't for you if you won't go to a Republican committee meeting, and it's not for you if you won't walk a precinct for a couple hours, and it's not for you if you think that your country's not worth a couple hours a month, because it only takes a couple hours a month. And what I do as well is I talk about priorities. If I only had 2 hours a month to spend on politics, I know what that would be. It would be going to my monthly Republican Party committee meeting, because that's where the real ball game of politics is played. Okay? Now, the Tea Parties, fantastic, great, wonderful. I'm glad they exist, and they're going to grow because in 2011 things are going to get worse in this country economically. I guarantee it. But face it, folks, running around with a sign on a Saturday at a park. You think Nancy Pelosi cares about that? You think Harry Reid or Obama cares about that? They don't care a whit about it, and the reason they don't care a whit about it is because they know you're not doing this. You're not getting organized politically in a party where you can really make a difference. It's about the elections. You got to change the outcome of the elections, and the way to change the outcome of the elections is to become precinct committeemen. So I say, Tea Partiers, you got to kind of pivot now. Take your partying indoors at a committee meeting of the Republican Party. That's where you can learn how to do all this stuff. And by the way, the Republican Party has been atrocious about getting the word out about this because, frankly, they don't want you. The powers that be in the Republican Party don't want you to come in and change everything. Look what we did in Maricopa County. They tried to install a McCain moderate and get rid of Rob Haney. Didn't work. 70%. Rob got 70% of the vote. Why did he get 70% of the vote? Because we had another 1,000 precinct committeemen. That's why. We went from 1,989 to 2,934. And so why did Tom Morrissey on 72 hours with a write-in campaign
48.
win? That happened again because all across the state, Tea Partiers pivoted and went into those committee meetings, figured out how to become a precinct committeeman, got elected precinct committeeman. That's how you change a political party, and that's how you change the outcome of elections. So, we got to unite. We have to unite where it matters. We're fighting a political war, okay? We're not fighting a war of mass rallies, a political war. Political wars are fought at committee meetings of political parties. So that's where you've got to go. The Republican Party is a tool. I say all the time, I'm an American first, I'm a conservative second, and I'm a Republican by necessity. The Republican Party is a tool, and it's a good tool. It's got a good conservative platform. I'll give you an example. Tea Party Patriots. The national coordinators of Tea Party Patriots will never talk about becoming precinct committeemen. And the reason they won't, I don't know why they won't. They just won't. Okay? But
why is that?
well, I don't know. I'm trying to get them to change that. But that's beside the point. But the point is, if we want to change things, we've got to unite politically where it really matters, inside of a political party, not just a Tea Party. Now, here's a big secret. And again, think of it. Have you heard any Republican elected official tell you what I'm telling you now?
No.
Of course not. Why do you think they don't tell you? Because they don't want you in the party. Because you might vote them out of office if you organize. And their cronies in the leadership, you might vote them out too. Okay, here's the big secret. Nationwide, all across the country, on average, it was even worse here or better in Arizona, 50% of these precinct committeeman slots are vacant. And they're split about 50-50 between rhinos and conservatives, or real Republicans. Okay, so do the math. You got 50% are filled up, 50% are unfilled. 25% of the whole is rhino, 25% is conservative. You fill up the 50% that's vacant, now you got a 75-25 majority of conservatives. Conservatives would own the party, okay? Now, the parties that be are terrified that you're going to figure this out. Now, I always hear people complaining about, and I'm not complaining about the Republican Party. I'm complaining about people, the American people, who don't get this, who don't understand this and haven't figured this out. And when I tell them it, then they still don't become precinct committeemen. Look, if you want, the Republican Party is a reflection of the precinct committeemen in it. Okay? If you want to change the Republican Party, quit complaining about it, get inside it, and change it, and bring every conservative you know into it. Because it's there for the taking. It's just there for the taking because of all the vacancies. So, if we do this, we'll do just what they did up in Utah. We're doing it here in Arizona, but we have a long ways to go. Because like I said, we've gone from 31% in Maricopa County filled in 2008 to about 44-45%. We still got 54% of these precinct committeeman slots in Maricopa County unfilled. If we fill them all up, and we do that between now and the primary of 2012, we'll go into that election in 2012 with a political juggernaut instead of a party that was at 1/3 operating strength. Okay. Now, why won't they tell you about this secret other than the reasons I gave you? There's more reasons. Some of the people who call themselves conservative Republicans, they're not really all that conservative. And they're afraid that if you figure that out and they go back to re-election back in their district, and some new person like Jeff Smith comes forward and runs against them, that you might get tossed out on your ear, okay? That they might get tossed out on the ear. And they're afraid that if they tell you this, that's exactly what will happen. You'll come into the party, and then they'll get a primary challenger. So they won't tell you, and they rationalize it, I imagine. You know, it's not my job to tell the American people what they can figure out on their own. It's not rocket science. It's not my fault the peasants don't know their rights. I mean, you know, too bad for them. And that's the way they think. They look down their nose at you. It only takes a couple of hours a month to become a PC, and that's why you've got to do it. It's easy. There's no dues. You just have to find your local meeting, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then what you've got to do is, once you get inside the party, you've got to figure out a way to figure out who all the other conservatives are. And how you do that is really up to you. What we did in LD17, we ran a slate of conservative candidates. 4 of the 5 won. How did we figure out who the conservatives were? We sat down, we had the meeting after the meeting. Those of us who knew one another, we sat down, we got a telephone list. How did we get the telephone list? I called Rob Haney and I said, hey Rob, can I get a telephone list of all the precinct committeemen in LD17 so that we can call them? Gee, that sounds like a good idea. Hang on. He called the recorder's office. She collated a couple of databases. Next thing you know, I get a phone list emailed to me. And so the people in LD20, we've been meeting with them. They said, hey, how are we going to figure out who all the conservatives are now that we've recruited a bunch of people? Why don't we cold call them? Hey, that's a good idea. Well, they had compiled their own phone list somehow. So we got ours from the county, and then I think they got one from the county, and then I think you guys did that in LD22 as well. Just a little bit of organization, and we elected 4 out of the 5 to and we got a whole new set of conservative officers. LD20, lots of stuff went on over there. They got mostly conservatives now running that. You know, one of the existing chairman resigned because I guess he didn't want all those have to deal with all those conservatives anymore. So it can happen. We can do this. Pinal County,